And thank you so much and for staying with us. We are very, very grateful. Those of you online and those are watching on YouTube and on our DSTV and GOTV channels, you're doing a very, very wonderful job. This is the point. Of course, we bring you experts and different people from different institutions, government and non-government institutions, and we talk about some of the impacts that these are having on our economy currently. Today, we have the Uganda Development Corporation in the house, of course, represented by the Public Relations Officer. By the way, a senior Public Relations Officer from the Uganda Development Corporation, Mr. Dennis Dokoria. Now, Mr. Dennis, we have shared, of course, on the investments. You've mentioned different sectors that have been invested in, but I know this hasn't come easy, and it's not a walk through a park. And I understand there could be some challenges. And now, if you could point out, for example, in our, I know you don't do the SMEs, but when it comes to the SMEs, for example, Uganda is one of the most entrepreneurial countries in the whole world. But unfortunately, this statistic is ruined by the fact that it has the quickest close-ups. People start businesses very early, and in the early days, before the businesses come to actually break even, they have fallen. How is the UDC, for example, managing all these companies, the tea companies, the fruits companies, to ensure sustainability? I know we're going to mention the challenges, and also we want to address what is being done currently to see that we tackle some of these challenges.
Okay, thank you very much. Definitely with any investment and any business, usually you find that businesses have challenges. And UDC or the projects that UDC is involved in are not immune to those challenges. Definitely there are challenges we face in some of them, but we definitely have ways that stop gaps that we are putting to try and mitigate some of these challenges. Now, when we talk about challenges, one of the biggest challenges, especially when we go to the teas, is the issue of the quality issue, because that challenge usually, most of it comes down to the farmers when they are picking the teas. You know, in the tea they usually say 2 leaves and a bud, and you find that when they are picking, sometimes people just pick what they and take it there, and eventually you find that what is coming to the factory may not be of the quality that is expected. And if you notice that when it comes to Uganda tea, for the export in the export market, Uganda tea fetches a lower price than the teas from some of our neighboring countries, and it's because of the perception that our quality is a little less than the quality of the other countries. And that's one of the biggest challenges. But why has this been a challenge to us? It's because of competition. Sometimes there are a lot of other factors that have come up along the way. And you find that when you are going to, you insist on quality, somebody else is going to take the tea, and then you may not have tea to process. So eventually we have found that sometimes that has been a very big challenge to us. Another challenge we have faced and we find in these entities is also the issue of raw material. Sometimes we find that the raw material is not sufficient enough for the factory to continue running. And why? Because probably the production capacity of the farmers is not as good. And we are talking about agro mostly, and when you're dealing with agro, many of these people depend on the weather patterns for the raw materials that they produce. And sometimes you may have poor harvests. So when you have a poor harvest, it affects the teas. We had a challenge actually with one of our factories, the Atiak sugar factory, where we had a fire breaking out and consuming a huge plantation of sugarcane. So you can imagine, once that fire happened and the plantation was consumed, then we didn't have enough raw material to be able to do that. So those are some of the the challenges. Then definitely also there are teething areas of governance and management and all these things, so that some of the challenges that are usually faced with any organization. How do they manage the enterprise? And so what are our strategies? What are our mitigations as UDC? In every enterprise that we invest in as UDC, one of the key things that we do is to ensure that we are part of the governance structure within that organization, because governance is very critical. Because if you have a weak governance structure, then definitely it's going to have an impact on the business eventually. So one key thing we do is that we are involved in the governance structure. So that means we have to ensure that every enterprise that we invest in has what we call a board to have oversight. And in that board, we have people who are part of UDC that are appointed by UDC. Some of them could even be UDC staff in those boards. And these, the board is the decision-making body. So everything that happens is the board has to be involved, including recruiting the management in the organization. So we make sure that we're able to be involved in most of the things. We also be able to improve finance, financial management, make sure that these entities are able to manage their finances very well, ensure that the management is also very good. And one other thing is that we do continuous monitoring and evaluation, because we have an M&E department at UDC that continuously does monitoring to ensure and see to it that our projects are running well. We're able to identify where the challenges are, because sometimes we find if we are not involved in the business, we may not be able to know what are the challenges. But the fact that we're involved, then we know what the challenges are, and we can actually take strategic decisions on, do we need to invest more into this project, or what else do we need to do to improve on this project? Especially, maybe I'll give you one example. When we realized a few challenges in the Atiak sugar factory, and the challenges were in the area of the raw material. UDC took a strategic decision to now invest in earth movers, such that we are able to now help to improve, to mechanize the farms, so that the farmers are able to produce good and large-scale sugarcane, which sugarcane now would be able to feed the factory, and the factory is able to produce the Atiak sugar, which Atiak sugar will be exported and also consumed locally. So that is very, very critical and very, very important for us.
When you talk about, for example, the management, we understand, of course, you said that there are UDC officials or representatives in these companies, but then when it comes also to the social corporate responsibility of these companies, are there overseers, are there people that actually ensure that these companies are doing well with the environment, first of all? Because we understand very many factories have byproducts. For example, you cannot talk about a sugar factory without talking about emissions, for example, from those boilers that are boiling. Are there strategies to see and to ensure that these factories actually are environmentally friendly, first of all, and also they can be sustainable in terms of climate change?
Yeah, definitely. I'll give you a simple example of the tea factories. Now, the tea factories consume a lot of firewood for the boilers, and one would say they are destroying the environment. But still, the tea factories are encouraging and supporting the growing of trees. Yeah, because the trees are one of the raw materials that they require. So when you look at all these places, they encourage, for as long as you are using boilers or you are using firewood, then one of the things that is critical is to encourage the production of of the raw material.
Yes.
Now, secondly, if we look at all these projects, most of them are actually green projects. I mean, they are plants, which plants also emit. You get me? Now, you look at tea, for example. Tea is grown widely. Yeah. Now, it's all green. You see a huge area of green. Now, those leaves are actually, the green is actually feeding the environment and capturing whatever. So ideally, the advantage of the farm may, I believe, outweigh the negative. If you look at the sugarcane, you imagine the huge farms that will have the sugarcane. How much does that sugarcane emit to the environment? It emits a lot. Now, let's come to one of our projects I told you about, Bukona. Bukona is producing green fuel, and that is also good for the environment because, one, what is it doing? Trade balance is reducing on LPG coming to the country, yeah, by producing green fuel, which can be used by the community. It's going to reduce on the fact that when we start consuming it here in Uganda, the fact that we are assembling the cook stoves, and the cook stoves are going to be, we're going to launch them. We're going to launch it maybe sometime in a few months from now. We shall launch it in the market. All those stoves, as many as have been imported or were able to bring, that green fuel, if it goes into the houses, that means it will be protecting the environment also from the trees, the firewood, and the charcoal that the environment is currently consuming. So when it comes to environment also, ideally, as an organization or as investments, it is something we also look into. Yeah.
Well, talking about also the products, I've seen mainly the agro-processed products, tea, and we have the fruit juice and so on. When it comes to market, you say one of the objectives of the corporation is also to, reduce the import-export imbalance of Uganda. What strategies are there to see that we promote quality products, to see that they can actually be accessed on the international market? Because like you mentioned, our tea has been neglected. Our maize, just simple things as maize to Kenya, was actually also brought back to Uganda. Why? Because of aflatoxins that were present in this maize. And the farmers were told that actually they are not doing the right things. By doing the traditional, probably drying, putting on the ground, they're actually overriding some of the quality parameters. So when it comes to marketing, how ready are these factories, are these industries when it comes to the global competition for the market?
Well, the industries are growing because most of these industries are just, we have just invested in them not long ago. Most of these enterprises, most of them are between maybe 3 years or so, or 4 years. And, we also had the challenge of COVID along the way, which had a huge effect on most of these enterprises. So ideally, most of these enterprises are growing, and some of them right now have actually reached a stage where they are able to market their products to the export market. Few examples. One, Soroti Fruit Factory was able to also export some of its products to Kenya, concentrates actually to Kenya, fruits. Right now, as we see Soroti Fruit Factory, it's now selling some of its concentrates to some local enterprise industries here that are producing juice, which would have imported or hitherto were importing these concentrates from Egypt or some other countries. But now they are beginning to actually realize that we have local content, we have local, our products are here and they have good quality, because you see, you cannot compete in the market with the imported product if you are not able to produce a good quality product. So one of the things that we focus on in our production is quality. how can we have a quality product that is able to sit on the shelf with an international product, which is able to be competitive in the market. And that's why we are focusing on quality. So we make sure that every factory has the right staff, the right caliber, the right quality of staff within them. The skill set is right, and to ensure that quality product, because there must be an output that is of good quality that has export value. Bukoda again was able to get business with Vivo. Now Vivo is an international company, so if you don't have quality, it will be very difficult for you to export to Vivo. You said our tea is rejected. No, our tea is not rejected. It's just looked at as of inferior quality, but it is good tea and it is exported. The only thing is that because it's looked at as of inferior quality, we get less
out of it.
But it's all exported. It all goes to the different. And in the future, we're looking into investing in coffee as well. We're also looking at investing in other fruit. In Luero, very soon we shall be launching another factory in Yumbe for fruit factory in Yumbe. So we are still looking at most of these, and all these are looking at producing products that can be exported to the different countries internationally or within the region. Atiak Sugar was actually exporting to Sudan and Congo. So you can see most of these products actually don't only have local market, but they also have international market, and all because quality is emphasized. Yeah. So market is available. We have marketing teams who go to the field. For the fruits factory already, you can see if you go to any of the supermarkets around, we have a whole team running around from Sorority Fruit Factory, marketing the product all over the place. We have distributors doing the distribution of the product locally. And not only are we looking at the local market, but also looking at the export market.
I'm hoping one day I'll be on a flight on Uganda Airlines and I'll be served with Teju juice. I think it would be something really good to appreciate about our country.
Sure.
Okay, now let's talk about the impact.
Yes.
I've just brought up example, for example, Uganda Airlines, because I realize we don't promote our own usually. And the president has come out so strongly on this one that he even wears clothes made in Uganda, just to show how passionate he is about our products. But currently, unemployment is a big issue. These factories, of course, require professionals and non-professionals, of course, supporting labor to see that they work in them. But so far, if you could just give us a picture of what the impact of these investments has been in as far as creating jobs, in as far as growing our economy, contributing to our gross domestic product is concerned.
Yes. Ideally, one of the key areas we focus on when we're investing in any enterprise is, does it create jobs? How many jobs will it create, either forward or backward? So job creation is key. Youth unemployment is very, very is a problem in this country. And we realize that one of the investments that we can do, and that's what's within our mandate and our strategy, is to invest in projects that have an impact in creating jobs. So far, our investments have what we call direct and indirect employment. We can boast of over 2,800 plus direct employments created by just those few 10 or so investments that we have talked about. Now, looking at that, 2,800 direct employment is a huge, huge number, because you can imagine the people who depend on these people. And majority of these are young people, the youth, within the youth age bracket, majority of these people. Now, these jobs are mostly taken by Ugandans, from management to the shop floor. Most of these are Ugandans. Actually, most of these factories are 100% Ugandans. Ugandans are running them. Now, if we looked at the other jobs that are being provided indirectly, look at the suppliers. Look at the farmers. You imagine the thousands of farmers who are supplying fruits to Soroti. Imagine the hundreds of farmers supplying sugarcane to Atiak Sugar. You imagine there's so many farmers supplying cassava, under the Acholi Bull project, supplying cassava to Bukona for making ethanol. I mean, that is huge. It's immense. And all these people have some kind of job that they have got from this investment. Now, all this has reduced on the burden of youth unemployment. Either they have become farmers, they are supplying the raw materials, maybe they are providing the inputs in form of fertilizers. Those are the jobs created. Then you go to the distributors, the people who are selling, the marketing and distributing, the shops. People are getting these fruits, these products, and they are distributing them, they are doing business with them. All that is employment. So we can proudly talk of millions of people who have been probably indirectly employed by these few. Now, imagine if we continued at this pace to invest in more of these. I'm telling you that we shall have a lot more jobs created for our young people. So youth unemployment is one of the hugest impacts that we have as UDC. We have been able to provide jobs, and not just any job, but quality jobs for these people. What else? We also have what we call another impact of taking raw materials. Because most of the raw materials initially would end up going spoiled, or if we are not able to provide, and farmers end up staying. You look at Soroti, for example, you'd find that some of the farmers have oranges or mangoes, and probably they did not have enough market for these products. Yes, some people may say, yes, we still have some, maybe we're not taking all that is available, but we're already planning to actually enhance, the capacity of the factory in order to be able to consume all the oranges that are available within the Teso sub-region and also beyond. So that is in plan. That's something we're working on, and very soon we should be able to have that done to increase on the capacity, the consumption capacity within the factory. Not only that, you look at the teas also. You imagine you have grown tea and there's nobody to consume that tea. What happens? So that's why those farmers in Mpanga, those farmers in Mabale, if we had not invested in these two factories had reached a stage of closing down. Now, if they had closed down, where would these farmers take their tea? What would be the impact? They have farmed, they have grown their tea. They are members. This is where they were supplying their tea. Now you have closed down the factory. That means they were going to be jobless, and their economic livelihood would have changed, would have gone down. So what do? These factories we're investing in are off taking these raw materials from the farmers and putting money into the hands of these farmers. And eventually, once they have money in their hands, that means an improved livelihood for their family and those who depend on them. The cassava, I've told you the story of cassava. People grew a lot of cassava where do you take the cassava? We have created market for this cassava. So this is very important to us, and it creates jobs. It also offtakes the raw materials from the farmers. And once you do that, it improves their livelihood and also that. And also, when a factory opens in a place, you notice that a lot of investments start to happen there. This young lady opens a restaurant in that place. Another one opens a salon in that place. Another one opens this. So all that is improving on the livelihoods, because other businesses end up starting up in some of these areas, which businesses will definitely help improve on livelihood, create also employment for other people. So we don't take this lightly. We know that whenever we invest, this can also help the transporters, the distributors. All these guys get jobs. You know, transporting the green leaf. Those people who transport the green leaf. Those who transport the raw material, the cassava, and all that. All these people get jobs, have some money going into their pockets. Then another impact that I would like to talk about is also the export promotion and import substitution. Yeah. So ideally, when we have products being exported, definitely we know that there's foreign exchange coming in, and that foreign exchange also helps with the trade balance and helps our country. And also the country also benefits from taxes, because we end up also getting taxes from some of these. We've talked about the reduction in the fruit imports of certain products. Why? Because we are now able to produce them locally, and we've also talked about the export. Another area is also the issue of the environment and sustainability. I think we've talked about that. Yeah. We have alluded to some of those things. So yes, so those are some of the impacts that we envision, and we feel this as our investments have done. I've talked about the Kalangala. I've talked about the benefit that Bidco and other enterprises and businesses are benefiting from our investments in that area. So yeah, so there is immense impact in that, and we believe that if we continue to invest even in more and other investments, then we should be able to have even bigger impact within this country.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Dennis.
You're welcome.
We are going to return with our final session.
All right.
And in this one, we want to share with us what, for example, institutions or companies that can benefit from UDC have to have in order to qualify for these benefits. I understand you talked about you taking part in equity, and you can come either the green, you call it the green field or the brown field. It means there could be industries out there that are currently running and are in need of capital, and they can be supported and also come to the level of some of the factories and industries you have actually put to mention. Also, I've had a rumor, I don't know how true this one is, but UDC is probably also one of the starters of Kira Motors. We're going to talk about that probably in the next final segment. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying tuned. And those of you that are online and on our Twitter handle, we are live right now at Smart24 TV. And today we are talking the Uganda Development Corporation. We are taking a very quick breather and return with our final session. You don't want to miss out.
Smart24, driving business.
This is Jordan. When it comes to classwork, Jordan is magic. Jordan shines. Jordan makes his peers better. Jordan is a true leader. White Star Magic family. Be a leader. Be magic.
For stories you can't let go, only on Pearl Magic Prime.
Smart 24, driving business.
You're watching Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. And of course, here we mean business 24 hours, 7 days a week. Today, we are talking about the Uganda Development Corporation, an institution that has been in place since 1952. Of course, with a little bit of hiatus in 1998, but re-established under the Uganda Development Corporation Act 2016 in order to, of course, enhance long-term investment in particularly those sectors that are avoided by private sector because of probably capitalization problems, lack of enough funds, lack of accessibility to some of the raw material. And so UDC is trying to fill that gap so that we have a balanced industrialization in Uganda. And I'm talking to Mr. Dennis Dokoria, who is the Senior Public Relations Officer at the Uganda Development Corporation. Now, we have already mentioned quite a number of things. For example, the sectors that the corporation has been able to invest in, the agro processing especially, also the mineral beneficiation, as well as the services industry and hospitality as well. So those are some of the sectors that actually the company has been, rather the corporation has been able to invest in. But I want to put a question to Mr. Dennis here. During the break, we were talking about the Kira Motors joke probably that I made in the first session. But are there prospects, for example, to invest in technology, innovation, and science? Because government recently has put a lot of investment in science and technology. And we are seeing this especially through Kira Motors, because we are finally able to, for the first time, assemble and manufacture vehicles, and not just vehicles, but electric vehicles, which are where the world is going to. So in as far as the future prospects of the Uganda Development Corporation, which sectors are you looking at in order to diversify the current industrial sector that we are actually having? I understand, for example, the tea, it has been there, it's a tradition, and we do grow tea here in Uganda. The coffee, like you mentioned, is also coming up. But what are the other sectors that are currently being looked at critically here by the Uganda Development Corporation?
Yeah, thank you. Ideally, as I alluded earlier, we focused initially in agro manufacturing. Why? Because the country is more agrarian, and it also has more impact to the community. Because one thing is, when you are applying for some of these funding or support, one of the things that we look at, does your organization create jobs? Yeah, that you'd like us to invest in. Two, would also say, does it offtake raw materials? And three, also export promotion. But that does not mean that we won't, in the future, invest in science, technology, and innovation, because I know that is the future. ST&I is the future of this in the world, and the world is moving towards ST&I. But definitely, we shall at some point also go into ST&I. But for now, we have been focusing on those three areas. Though right now we are also going into some areas like medical consumables. That is an area. We have quite a number of future prospects for investment. For example, cocoa. Cocoa is also a very critical area, and we have looking towards investing in cocoa in Bundibujo. About 2 billion. So you can imagine such an investment. That's not just an SME.
Yes.
So we have definitely policies and guidelines that help with the eligibility of the investments. So I will not tell you that it's exactly this or that, but what's important is that when you visit us, we'll be able to discuss with you. I've already told you about the values that we expect: job creation, of taking raw materials, and also export. Is it able to work on the trade balance? Those are things that are critical to us. So what we require, the simple thing we require, is for you to submit a proposal, a well-written proposal that is very convincing. Yeah, with all these things. Then that proposal will go through what you call due diligence. We'll go through it. It will go through quite a number of checks to be able to be sure about, and also to be able to do due diligence to see whether what you are talking about really is what is on the ground. Are you going to create jobs? Are you going to take the raw materials? Because sometimes you find that people say, "Oh, I have so much raw materials." It's just a hearsay. We have so much. But when you go on the ground, you find it's not there, and it affects the business. So we would like to ensure that all these are in place. That's why I say well-written proposal and convincing, because convincing means it must meet its expectations. And once it goes through the process, then it will be presented through the process. And if it's looked at as an eligible project, then definitely the funding will be available according to the policies and the guidelines that are available.
Now, for the greenfields, for example, you say these are completely, we are starting from zero.
Yeah, like
right?
Sorority Fruit.
Like Sorority Fruit Factory.
Yes.
Do I have to have a specific threshold of the capitals, the starting capital? For example, you've talked about, for example, it must be something like of 2 billion. Do I have to have a threshold for me to start? Or like nowadays they say, you need to have a certain, level of, some kind of, the way your business is running, there must be a certain level of respect that the business has earned for you to be able to, for example, get financing from UDC, or it's actually open?
No, ideally you have to have a certain percentage. You have to show, because if you're coming into a partnership with anybody, definitely you have to put what I bring on table. And
I have a very nice proposal. I have a very, very beautiful proposal. I have a brilliant idea, and I'm sure this is going to make money. Will I get the support? For example, I don't have the money. Very good business proposal, and surely if this is invested in, it will make money.
That's what I'm saying. It has to be very convincing proposal. Because if it's a greenfield and you are able to say, this is what I can put, or if you're not able to, we usually ask and we request that you can look for partners who are able to bring the equity or the capital to invest. Because we don't usually invest 100%. We prefer to support an enterprise. Yeah. So the enterprise comes and says, I would like to do this. I'm able to put in 50% or maybe 55%. So you would be able to say, okay, what's the 55%? So sometimes you may have to go and we may have to advise that you find a partner, because we are supporting a lot of PPPs. So we're saying, when we find a partner who would invest, who would work with you to invest on that part, then we can invest the other part. So, and usually when you're going into a business, you always have to come with something. That's when you take it serious. Usually when you don't come with anything, then it becomes government at Yambe.
Yes.
And government at Yambe will become a government at Yambe.
Yes.
So usually it's important that you come with something, then you get support from us. Not us saying we are now starting the business, we're going to run the business and do everything. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to, for example, the stock exchange, I understand, like you mentioned at first, we could have the initial capital share we shared with you, the UDC, and then the private part. But are there possibilities of listing, for example, the company that has with the UDC having stake on the public stock exchange?
Well, we have not done that before. We have not yet gotten to that level, because right now UDC is doing most of the support and investment. We give loans, we give all these kind of investments to these people. But I'm thinking eventually when the business grows to a certain level, maybe shares can be floated through the stock exchange to the public, so the public is able to buy shares, because that's one way of recapitalizing an enterprise. And I think that would be also good if now UDC starts to slowly reduce on its stake while other people are getting involved.
Yeah.
But the biggest challenge with most businesses or entrepreneurs or investors, some entrepreneurs, is that they usually want to hold on to, that syndrome. My company.
Yes.
But if it gets to that there are other people who can invest in a company, I think it's a good thing, because it means that the risk is spread, and also the company, they will bring in other benefits to the company that will be able to build the company to another level.
Yeah. Wow, you said this. I had a very good time, and definitely people who are watching as well did have a very, very wonderful time. Thank you for sharing your wonderful insights. Maybe before we depart, one word for the businessmen out there, especially for the year 2023. We've just begun a year where, of course, we've come out of very many economic hardships and also social hardships as well, including the COVID-19 pandemic, inflation, and so many pressures are on people's pockets right now. But what can you give them, especially the businessmen out there?
Yeah, the businessmen and businesswomen out there, one word I can give you is that doing an enterprise, especially for us who are in industry, I usually say that industry is not an event. It is a process. It is a process. It's something you work at. You put in your effort, you put in your time, you focus on it. And eventually, you will see the rewards. It's not something that we expect to receive returns in one month or in the first year. If you look at the investments that we are talking about, when we talk about investments take time to recoup your profits and start becoming profitable, and they're able to, pay back, their investors. So it's a process. So what we need to do is that we don't give up along the way. Let's commit to it and let's work towards it and work hard. And eventually we shall be able to reap the benefits in the future.
Wow, interesting. Yeah. Thank you. There you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Dennis Dokoria, who is the Public Relations Officer at UDC. Maybe as we part, the location, maybe where they can find help in case they need to know more about UDC, where maybe they need physically to come to your offices. Where can they find?
So UDC is on Lumumba Avenue. We are on the Solis house on Lumumba Avenue. We sit on the 5th floor. That's where you come, and then we shall have a discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We've been talking the Uganda Development Corporation. You've had it all. You need, of course, to have a contribution. If you're getting support from UDC, there's nothing free. There are no free lunches. And if you're a businessman out there, they told you about patience. All this takes patience and hard work. Like the president told us in his end of year address, we must get rid of laziness if we are to have a fruitful 2023. Thank you so much for following us, and those of you who started the show with us and are ending it with us. We wish you a very prosperous 2023. This is the first of some of the biggest shows that are going to come up ahead of course in 2023. My name is Anthony. Remember to follow me at Anthony Sebale on Twitter and Smart24 TV, your #1 business channel. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well done.